Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Sensors. I am Majo Basil here with Polly Fly and Mr. Mohib, Mr. Duncan.
Hey,
How's everybody doing tonight?
Yo, 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 it has been a minute.
it's been a while since we've all been together. Yeah,
It
yeah. Good to be back.
has.
Good to be back.
Funny how
Yeah, a
Um,
little.
funny how life does those weird things to us, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we're all reconvening at the start of a release of a new set, so that's good timing for everyone.
Right?
Yeah.
absolutely. Exciting stuff to talk about, too. We are here talking about some spoilers for Seeking Answers. So, that is going to be the newest ARH set coming out on May the 4th. Be with you. And so the release party, we got to plug this real quick. So May 7th is going to be the big. It will be free release, tournament for that. So definitely, get that, booked on your calendars. Get ready to roll some, virtual dice on TTS for that. So that'll be May the 7th. But yeah, the set's coming out May the 4th, and we've
May the
seen some
4th.
interesting stuff, guys.
We have
So
we have seen a lot of interesting things come out of the group so far.
Yeah. Good spoilers. Exciting spoilers. New mechanics, new dice sides, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
I love, the article that Echo 3 put out recently
Hmm.
about, expanding the game vertically. And I think even DC sort of talked to Echo and Elrath about this in his video with them, but like, it's this thought of like, hey, we could be complacent, we could keep sort of going horizontally, but we're going to choose to go vertical,
Yeah.
and just like get a little different, get a little weird, mix things up, right? Introduce new stuff, get out of our comfort zone. I love it. So
Well, I mean that's with any game. With any game that is designed, if you're not trying to improve on something, introduce something new, work new mechanics. If you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, like the game is just gonna flatten out because there's nothing exciting bringing people back. But as of the
Yeah.
recording today, we've gotten 17 new cards so far that
Yeah.
that shake it up quite a bit. I think already. So
absolutely.
Well, yeah. But the main thing for me is charm, the new mechanic,
yeah,
which I think is going to shake up the Destiny game quite a lot. It's going to be really fun new mechanic. Uh, I love it. I don't know, Majo, do you want to take us through as the
Yeah.
admin? Maybe take us through what the mechanic does and how it works, and then we'll say what we think about it.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about it. And then we do have some spoilers, right? That's why we're here today.
Of
We'll
course.
get into our spoilers here momentarily. But yeah, I mean, we've got a couple of charming characters, right? And I like the way that it was described in the article by Echo 3, right? It's like, think of it almost like influence. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a musician, right? Not we've seen Garza Whip, right? A respected Twi'lek. She doesn't even have a subtype, actually. She's just a character, but she has charm. And then we've got Finger and Dan, right? He's a musician with charm. So I think it's very interesting, right? You can be charming, like with the music you're influencing. You can put these tokens on. It's an after activation ability, right?
right.
And so you can do that based on being a musician, or maybe some other way. Other influential characters may get this mechanic. So yeah, I think what's really interesting, and I've heard Echo describe it multiple times, is like, if you have the charm mirror match, it can be very much like a chess match, right? It's very cerebral. And do you choose to put charm on your own character or on another character, right? Because you
Mhm.
can choose any character in play, and it alters the effect, right? So you power action, remove charm tokens to do something.
Mhm.
And whether you're removing those from your own character or an opponent's character, like, changes the effect. So very interesting. I love that, like, duality.
Yeah,
You don't know how you might want to use it.
because something
Yeah.
something to think about is that the charm tokens don't have an owner, right? Theoretically, they don't have an owner. They're not your charm tokens. They're charm tokens on a character. So, like with Finger and Dan, it says remove 2 charm tokens from a character, and you
Mhm.
could technically, like you're talking about in the charm chess match. Like if they're putting charm tokens on their own character, you could technically power action him to remove their charm tokens. To then
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yep.
the non-Jedi mind trick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's very
Yeah.
cool. It's very
You
cool.
could remove 2 charm tokens from one of your characters to resolve one of it without removing it from the pool. So if you've got, a big Luke Skywalker with him or something, you can take advantage of a double use of the dice there, or you do it on your opponent. The thing I like about the charm mechanic is it's like the core building blocks of Destiny. It just inserts itself into there, and I'm so excited to see all the different uses of like cards that come out. You can remove charm tokens to mess with their dice or resolve their dice, or I can't wait to find out all the in the future sets to come. The possibilities of like charming other characters and what they could possibly do. It's just a mechanic that's not just about removing their dice or re-rolling it. It can be about anything, like combining it with other mechanics. And I said this to you guys before we recorded. It feels like it was almost something that has always been part of Destiny. It feels like something so inherent to the way that you play Destiny and the back and forth on the table. Oh, I'm going to activate and put 2 charm tokens on you or a charm token on you there. It just feels like it was always there. It feels like if FFG were still making Destiny, this is exactly the mechanic that they would bring. It just feels natural. It feels familiar already, and it's fun and it's thematic, and the design possibilities in the future are kind of endless. So, yeah, that's my charm rant out the way. I love it, and it's made me really excited to get back into Destiny, as this whole set I think is doing at the moment as well.
Yeah, we talked about that for before we pressed record. Like I agree. I'm so excited to play some of these new cards and just to get back to deck building, right? So anyway, I think the other big big treat, if you will, or big new thing that's coming is the new die symbol.
Yeah.
The new reroll symbol, right? So that's huge. Like, not only did we get a new mechanic, but we're getting a new die symbol. So the reroll symbol, and I love the symbol, by the way. It's like the little galaxy. Kind of reminds me of like the across the galaxy symbol. Yeah, like the spiraling galaxy. Yeah. So what do you guys think of that?
It makes sense, right? Because there's a lot of times where you don't want to discard cards in your hand to reroll. But how else are you supposed to do it? Like it takes something that you almost feel trapped, stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it gives you an out if you have a die that you can use to reroll other dice. And to be fair, you can use it as mitigation or soft mitigation, right? You can reroll your opponent's dice. So even if you don't have mitigation in your hand, like it adds a whole nother deck building twist, because you don't have to. Like, you guys know me, I used to play every piece of mitigation I could. I was always, in Magic, I was a control player, so if you don't do anything with your dice to hit me, then I'm happy. This just gives me the ability to play other cards without having to have mitigation, because I can use the reroll dice for that, which is, I think it's great. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like an anti-focus device as well.
Yeah.
If you've got 2 reroll sides sitting on your side of the table, and your opponent has, got all these. There's nothing worse than seeing your opponent and they've got like 3 focuses out there or something, and you're like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I can mess it. It just, okay, you use that focus. You use that focus, and I'll just, spin it up again and see what we get. Yeah.
Where was this symbol when I needed it against like Moff Garindon? When they could just focus into all these, Crime Lord specials, and I couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah, I love the concept of like just leaving a 2 reroll die in your pool, right?
Yeah.
Just letting it sit there, right? Just like if you had a 2 disrupt or something, it's just like that. The threat of it, it's going to stop your opponent in their tracks from resolving focus, or they may not want to discard a reroll because you just can reroll them back. It's super
like a
cool.
Shen Mastery special, You've got that sitting there, and they can't get rid of it, and then they become afraid to roll their best side or focus to their best side. So, you know. It's just one of those things that's just, and it's like I said with Charm, it's now inherent in the game. It's like you're not looking for cards. You're not having to discard things from your hand. It's just something, something that's there. It's great.
And to the end with charm, like back and forth with that chess. This is just another chess piece on the board, right? Like we talk about having that 2 disrupt, leaving it out there. If you're going to take that 2 money so you can play your big support or whatever, I'm just going to disrupt you. Or, well, now, it's this. Do I go? Do I turn my dice and get 2 for 1 essentially? Or the possibility of it happening. Or do I leave it in my pool with the chance of them charming and re-rolling their own dice because they want to, because it can go either way. So it's with the charm mechanic and with the new reroll symbol, like it's just more chess pieces. I mean, I love this game because there's not a ton of intricacies. Like I always harken back to Magic because I play Magic too, and Magic is can be very convoluted and very intricate in its interactions. And this game never really has been. And not that having those interactions is a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but adding things to the game that maybe make it less autopilot in some respects, I think is very good. Because a lot of the times you just pony up to the table and it's, I turn my guy sideways, I hit you in the face for 12, kill your character, move on with life. And this now you can actually do something about somebody who rolled hot. If you rolled out first and you're sitting on some reroll dice, or you've charmed a character, like we know how strong like inhibitor chip is, and being able to charm a character's die off the table or to hit them in the face with their own, like it just adds a little bit more back and forth in thinking, and that I think the game has really needed.
Yeah, it kind of takes it out of your hand and puts it on the table.
Yeah.
It's not about, I've got this combination of cards, I'm going to, it puts it on the table, like the chess match analogy. The pieces are all there, and you're looking at the dice, and you're looking at the tokens that are on the cards, and you've got inherent abilities on your characters, and it's that back and forth that we love in Destiny.
And the RNG is still there. Like you still have to re-roll the dice, or you still have to get the re-roll side, but you have a little bit more control, slightly over the possibility of that RNG, which I think it's it's great. I think it's awesome. It adds just enough thinking man to the game. I think it's good.
Should we get into the spoilers, gents?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have some yellow spoilers for you all. And we actually don't have an event this time. So almost always we go event, upgrade character. We're gonna go upgrade, and we'll see what comes next. All right. So we're gonna start off with. You guys ready?
Yes.
The Gaffy Stick.
Woo!
So we got a 2-drop neutral upgrade weapon, and this is a parallel die. And so we got so it's got some melee sides on here. We'll throw it up on the screen. Disrupt, resource, and special. Man, that special is interesting. We were just talking about this before we hit record, and I think you said, Duncan, if it had 2 specials, you'd be in love with this card.
Oh yeah.
But I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a huge fan of this card. I think I just don't know. I mean, it does have redeploy though. I mean, that shouldn't be overlooked. To me, this card doesn't scream, I want to run this card. It's got a modifier and a pay side. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm sure the redeploy really should not be overlooked. What do you guys think?
I mean, yes, it does have redeploy, but you can't just look at redeploy as a word by itself on a card. What are you redeploying? You're redeploying a stick that only has 1 base side that you have to pay for, first off, and then a 2-stick modifier. Depending on what deck this goes into, I'm okay with it, but realistically, I only want 50% of this die, realistically, for 2 resources. I mean, Duncan, I see where you're going with. If this had a second special, hell, I would even go with a second special that got paid, that you had to pay for. Remove the pay side off the 2 melee and put a pay on a second special. Maybe remove the disrupt. I'm on it all day long. But yeah, it's not. I mean, just because it has redeploy, I don't think that's an auto include in anything. Redeploy is always good, but I mean, what do you?
They have to be a good enough weapon to care about it redeploying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a vibro sword or something.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It's a 2-cost. I mean, it's a standard 2-cost weapon. It's the same parallel dice as the original Gappy stick from Awakenings. So thematically, that's kind of the dice is going to look quite good. If you're rolling it on the table, you're going to know what it is. The original Gappy stick's special was not remove an opponent's die. The original Gappy stick special was, or Gaddafi stick. The original special was remove one of your dice showing melee damage to deal 3 damage to a character.
Oh,
so
that's that's interesting history lesson there, because like the designers chose to take something that was originally very offensive, right? Essentially 3 damage sides on the old version, and now to make this a bit more defensive, where now it's only it's less than 50% damage, and now you have a special that's very defensive in nature. That's interesting.
Well, to be fair though, thematically it makes sense from a design standpoint. The original Gaddafi stick was back from A New Hope, when the Sand People were ruthless, and they had this stigma of being ruthless and attacking people. Now from the Book of Boba Fett, which we know from talking to Echo 3, like that was a big influence in this set. The Sand People were very defensive. They brought people in. They taught them the ways. They were not aggressive people. They were more of a defensive people. So it makes sense to change that from a design standpoint. That being said, I'm still not a big fan.
Yeah. So wow, that was really insightful, Folly. That's good stuff, man. That's so true. Like, I have to say, the Tuscan Raiders are probably one of my favorite elements of the Book of Boba Fett. Cool guys.
It fits a slot. I mean, it fits a 2-cost slot if you have to have a 2-cost weapon for some reason. I don't know. I think I don't know that it'll find a great home, but it's neutral. It'll go in anything.
It feels like the kind of card that would be in a draft set. If there was a draft set brought out. It's like a 2-cost weapon that kind of got a little bit of utility in it with the remove an opponent's die.
I could see that.
It's a draft.
That's a great point. Yeah, for sure. You guys want to move on?
Sure.
Let's do it.
I think so.
All right. So like I said, we instead of an event, upgrade character, we actually have upgrade, and now we've got a support.
Ooh.
We do. Yeah.
Support location. Keeping with the Book of Boba Fett theme, we have the Tuscan Camp.
Camp.
Also a neutral card, a 3-drop. So this is a support location. So we'll throw it up on the screen. So you guys can see the die size. I think one of the things that's really cool about this card is, it comes in with extra dice.
Yeah.
Ever since Mega Blasters, which obviously is rotated, other things like the Bad Batch. I mean, anything that gives you extra dice upon activation, it just feels so good. It's like, man, you got all these dice, so much value. And this, this says after you activate, you can roll those 2 set aside Tuscan Raiders into your pool, and you can remove one of your character dice, any of your character dice, gain a resource. So this thing could immediately sort of help to pay for itself. You can remove another die that's already in your pool. That's super cool. I really, really enjoy this card. I think it's really neat. So we'll flash it up, but let me go ahead and look at it now. The original Tuscan Raider, it's actually not terrible. I mean, 1 gun, 1 melee, 3 for 1 melee, so 3 damage sides, shield, resource, blank. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, 50% damage sides. You're rolling 2 of those in with the Tuscan Camp die. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm a big fan of this.
Well, the original Tuscan Raider dice did win the very first FFG World Championships with Darth Vader. It was a Vader Raider deck that won the first world. So, there's got to be some people out there that liked that dice from Awakenings. When I first saw it, I thought 3-cost, okay, you get your 2 dice, and immediately went to look at the dice sides on this card to see what you get, as well as the 2 Tuscan Raiders. And I kind of was like, do I really want the 2 indirect side? Don't really like 2 indirect as a side. The disrupts and things, and I wasn't too sure about it. but then it's the utility that the more you think about it, the more you look at other combinations of cards that can work with it. Then you begin to go, okay, and I know you, Majo, like this card for kind of those similar reasons. Being able to roll your two set aside dice in and then remove immediately one of them or any other character die to gain a resource kind of pays for itself every turn, so the cost goes down.
Mm-hmm.
It has some utility, and we'll probably talk about some other cards that we think that might work well with that. It's one that we'll see. Someone will come out there and probably put part of a good support deck and really, find something really interesting with it.
Yep.
Polly, what do you think about this? You must...
Well, I mean, like you said, I look at it as I'm paying 3 resources. Well, essentially, you got to pay 3 resources to get 1 back, right? So it's essentially 2 resources for 2 dice, which is not horrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're not removing, you're looking at second round that it's out, you're looking at 3 dice in the pool, and if you really need a resource to play a weapon on round 2 or something, or round 3, like, you got to have the 3 resources first. So realistically, you're looking at turn 2 or round 2 or round 3 is really when it's coming out. And so at that point, you're either looking for the dice to help finish the game off, or build to your end game big support or something like that. The Tuscan Raider dice are nothing to squabble at. Like, if you need dice to come in and you've got some focus dice out there, like in the new symbol that we just talked about, that can focus into 3 for 1, like, that's not bad at all. I think it will find a spot in a deck that wants it. There's a handful of cards that talk about removing X amount of dice to do X amount of damage, or you get to do, I think, what is it? If you have 7 different symbols or 10 different symbols, you basically get to win the game. Just more dice in the pool is good. I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting card. I do like it because it brings more dice every time it rolls out, and anything that brings more dice than what it shows at face value. At 3, I mean, how much is Bad Batch? Is Bad Batch 3 or 4?
It's
4, right? Yeah, it's 4. And Mega Blasters was 4, and it brought 3 dice, right? This is 3 and brings 3 dice, and so I think it's right on par. Because even though it brings the same amount of dice, the dice aren't, in my opinion, as good. They're middle of the road utility, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
But
one thing to possibly remember is I think Bad Batch and Mega Blasters had a spot requirement to get the full value out of them, like spot leader.
Correct.
This one doesn't. So it's just when you activate the support, you get your 2 dice. So
right. It also costs it also costs 1 less than those 2 cards did, and you get at least one of your dollars back if you want right off the rip. So either you're paying the turn it comes out, either you're paying 2 resources for 2 dice, or you're paying 3 resources for 3 dice, and then after that it's just gravy every time because if you roll one of the 1 money sides on the Tuscan Raider and you really don't care about the 3 for 1, or if you've got like a blank, like you rolled something else out and you got a blank, you got something you just can't do anything with, or you have a support character like a small that's probably going to die, like you can roll this out and remove their dice to get a little bit of value back. So it's got utility. It's got utility in that, and that's why I say I think it's costed well at 3. To go along with those other cards that bring in extra dice, because it's got the utility. I don't think it's like, oh my god, he dropped his Mega Blasters on game's over. I think it's, okay, Tuscan Camp came out, he's either building to something to finish me off next round, or, whatever. I think it's a decent card. It's just going to have to find, it's probably going to be a very specific deck that you find it in.
It's the decks that want as much dice in the pool, hopefully as early as possible, and ways in which you can do that. Now, I have 2 words for you here. Fight dirty.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got fight dirty is remove any number of your yellow dice, then deal damage to a character equal to the number of dice you just removed.
Me and you were thinking the same wavelengths here.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for stealing your.
No, you didn't steal it at all. You didn't steal it at all. No. We were thinking the same way.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. So if you've got, you're playing yellow because it's a yellow card, so you're going to have probably at least a minimum of 2 character dice in there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 1-cost card that could do 5 or more, in one hit, potentially 7,
Yeah.
That's, just gets more cheap dice into the pool. Have you guys any other cards that you guys think would work well with this?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maja.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so the one we talked about a little bit before was Blackstall Station. So if you're playing the Tuscan Camp with even some Deathwatch Mandalorians, and you choose when you activate the Tuscan Camp, not to remove one of the set-aside Tuscan Raider dice, but in fact remove one of the Deathwatch Mandalorian dice, they get the effect of when you remove their dice, do an indirect. And if you have Blackstall Station, that's going to ping as well. So, there's some synergy there, right? It's one of those cards that, with Blackstall, you're looking for ways to remove your own dice, to send pings across the table. Really, really interesting interaction there. But I think like what you said should not be overlooked at all. Like the fact that so there's a spot requirement to play it, spot a yellow to play it. But once it's in play, you're guaranteed 3 dice every time you activate this thing. And imagine if you have a way to reset it, like with Cassian, right? And there's like crazy Cassian support decks where you're resetting stuff, like 3 dice. Reset it, 3 more. It's just, that's wild.
You could win the game on a fight dirty if you can reset that,
Yeah. I mean, and like late in the game, I mean, I know like the Tuscan Raider die, it's just got those 2 like 1 sides, and then the 3 for 1 would be nice late game. But heck, even just those 1s, I mean, they can add up. So yeah, I think it's great.
There's more things that are remove your dice to be able to do this, a lot like Blackstall Station or Mandalorian Deathwatch. There's a card for Mandalore which would work really well with those with the Blackstall Station, is remove a character or upgrade die, so a character die here. Then roll one of your elite character or upgrade dice into your pool. So that costs 2, but if you have a big character and you've got Blackstall Station, you get a cheap Tuscan Raider dice in there. You remove it, you're doing your damage, and then you're getting to roll in another of your big characters. There's lots of little combinations out there that are still to be found by people, but that's what here. And I feel almost, probably before we go on to reveal or whatever the next spoiler will be, I feel like with Echo designing this set, you can tell that those guys are real deck builders, all the Echo-based guys. And maybe I'm putting them in one group, but that, to my mind, that's kind of the Echo-based guys tend to have a style of play, and the things that they always get very excited about are always deck building, like the mechanics of deck building. The joys of finding weird combinations with weird cards and weird characters, rather than just slapping down Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker and rolling big dice. They're all about the sort of fun little combinations of things. And it feels like this is definitely an Echo-based kind of card, like something that will find lots of utility with further sets as there are more options to do things with your dice and things. So it's an interesting card. Yeah.
Something I overlooked, and I don't want anybody else to overlook, is there's plenty of cards in this in the universe in the game that lets you make money early, right? We have Mando, who you can remove one of his dice showing damage to gain a resource. Truce is currently in rotation, right? There's lots of ways to make money, so you can get this out conceivably turn 3 and turn 1, I'm sorry, and get one of your money back. So you essentially still have money to do something else. And the fact that this thing has a 2 disrupt side on it, turn 1, resolve a 2 disrupt. I mean, we've had characters that get adjusted in points because they resolve 2 disrupt turn 1 out the gate, and it makes everybody mad. Like, there's ways to get this thing down and then just disrupt your opponent. So early game, late game, like I said, I think this has got great utility. It's not like bomb over the park or out of the fence, but it could do some work. Like, it could seriously disrupt some people's game plans early and then finish the game off with like fight dirty or whatever late.
Yeah, if you've got Transformations Han and he rolls a 2 disrupt and this rolls a 2 disrupt, then your opponent's just rage already.
I think that's a great point, Paulie, though, because I feel like we're in an age of Destiny where it's so easy to make money,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and I like the prevalent. I like a counter to that.
Right.
Having more disrupts, having more two disrupt sides. I mean, it sucks to be on the other end of that, but sometimes it's just fair. It's like,
I mean,
decks that can poop out Bad Batch and something else on turn one.
how many
You need to have these disrupts out there.
how many decks did we see in January where turn 1 there was 4 supports on the table or 4 weapons, like 3 or 4? Like there was games that I played where turn 1 or turn 2 there was 10 dice on the table from my opponent. Like it was ridiculous. And this just adds a little more. I mean, this, if you can hit it, it just slows the game down. It's that back and forth chess match again, right? Like nobody likes their money being disrupted. They like their deck to be able to do what it wants to do, and they want it to do it faster than you can do it. And this, adding disrupt to the game to slow it down, I think makes key too. So I mean, don't overlook that. Like I said, it's a good utility card, and I think even early game, getting it out turn 1, like you can surprise some people with it, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. All right, gents, should we move on to our final spoiler for the evening?
Oh, I thought we were done.
No,
Oh, we're done? Oh,
You've done
okay.
enough already. Yeah.
All right. So, if you couldn't guess the theme of the evening, so Boba Fett.
Ooh.
Mr. Boba Fett himself, but this is not Bounty Hunter Boba Fett.
No, not at
This
all.
is enlightened Daimyo of Tatooine Boba Fett.
Yes.
So, coming in at 12 health neutral, really reflecting the sort of the stage of his life that we see him in the Book of Boba Fett. Just wanting to sort of do right, by the town. And yeah, 14-16, interesting mixed sides here. Really interesting. So Duncan, you talked about deck builders, and this is a deck builder's delight.
This
right?
is definitely an Echo-based designed card, or Echo 3 designed card.
Yeah, Echo 3.
So, I think we'll talk about pairings. I think we each have sort of some ideas here, but what I like about Boba is like the I'll be honest, I probably would just pair him with Fennec.
Well, hold on a minute. For our viewers that are just listening at work, like we haven't even talked about what he does here. Like,
you're so excited.
I know, he's so excited to get into it. So he's 12 health, like you said, and you're right.
Yeah.
His die is
Take
mixed.
us through it.
His die is mixed. He's got a 1 ranged, a 2 ranged, 2 melee, 2 shield, a money, and a blank at 14-16, which I think is a perfect sweet spot for him at 12 health. He does have the leader subtype, but no bounty hunter this time. And in days of I'm not sure what side I want to be on, he says that you may include up to 4 yellow villain cards and up to 4 yellow hero cards in your deck. Now, understand that the deck building restrictions still apply, so you can't just throw whatever you want in there. They still got to be within the same parameters, but you get to include up to 4 yellow villain and 4 yellow hero cards in your deck. And with him being neutral, like that, we talk about Echo 3 being deck builders dream. It gives you lots of, not lots of options, but at least 4 options in one way or another, unless you build straight neutral, and then you get 8. But on top of that, you also get, after you play a yellow card, place 1 resource on this character, and he does have a pretty sweet power action to use those resources. Now, resource is a very important deal here, because back in the, let's see, what was it? Was it Den of Thieves that got changed? It used to be resources, and now it's damage, right? So resource matters. His power action is remove 2 resources from this character to roll 1 of his character dice into your pool. So you build him in a yellow deck. You're including yellow cards, at least 4 villain and or 4 hero. You're essentially, for 16 cost, getting 3 dice out of the deal. I mean, and it's not a roll it in and resolve it right away. Like, if you got a modifier sitting out there, you can roll it in and try to do something with it or whatever else. Like,
However, though, you do have to put some work in to get that third die, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to play cards. Oh my God.
You got to play cards. Yeah.
I mean,
So
yeah.
yeah, and I did jump the gun a little bit there, but I think why, I mean, the obvious reason would be that him and Fennec are very very thematic, but
Very true.
if you look at Fennec, she also has an after effect related to yellow cards.
You're right.
Hers simply says, I think hers is specific to yellow events.
Yes, it says after you play a yellow event, you may reroll one of your dice.
Yeah. So, but they're both after effects. You're sort of triggering both of them simultaneously just by playing a yellow card.
Mm-hmm.
And in her case, a yellow event specifically. But I just think that's super neat. It just feels and like if you were to put these cards side by side, like the after effects wouldn't line up like perfectly, but I mean, it's very obvious that they both have this sort of after effect synergy, and there's just the thematic synergy, and so.
Well, yeah.
And yeah, I mean the fact that we kind of racked our brains earlier, but there are a good number of neutral cards that could make them pretty viable, and then you would get the 4 villain and the 4 hero. So
Right.
that's kind of where my head goes.
I mean, he's designed in such a way that it's pushing you as a deck builder to build mono yellow. Like that's the point.
Yeah.
You want to play yellow cards. Like if you play, let's say yellow red. I was looking at Cara Dune as a possibility in the hero side of it. Yeah, you get to include yellow cards, but I'm building my deck more towards the yellow side. That way I can trigger his ability every time. Because realistically, if I'm not getting 3 dice out of his character, and for the first 3 or 4 turns, as long as he's alive, then I haven't done my job as a deck builder. So I mean, I'm gonna force it more towards yellow. So it almost feels like obviously he's more beneficial if you build mono yellow. You can build him with other characters, and there's other great pairings. But yeah, I just think straight up mono yellow, whether you go villain or hero, is the way to go. And to your point, Majo, him and Fennec obviously thematically are paired up perfectly. Both of their events, or both of their passives, do something with yellow cards, which if you're playing them together, you're playing all yellow, right? Like that's just the point. And with her power action, where you get to reroll a weapon die, those weapon dice are going to be yellow. Like you're playing Beskar Spear, you might be playing like a DL18 you can bring in now since it's hero. There's a number of different yellow weapons. Kazu Patar, if you're playing him with Fennec, like that's a yellow villain that its modified sides don't become modified anymore. Or the big one, Vibro Sword. Like all these things are great. They're all yellow cards that let you roll out an extra Boba die eventually that you can then. Yeah, they're just great.
I think what's interesting, and then Duncan, I want to hear what your thoughts are. Like I'm looking at Boba Fett, Infamous, and Ruthless from Covert Missions, who will still be legal, right? We didn't even talk about Spark of Hope will be rotating out,
right?
When Seeking Answers becomes legal. But both Boba Fett's will be legal simultaneously. Obviously, 2 different points in time. Infamous and Ruthless is like the right hand man to Vader, right? The sort of bounty hunter Boba. But if you look at Boba Fett from Covert Missions, he's 11, 14, 11 health. Actually has the same amount of damage sides as this new Boba Fett. And so you figure like the new Boba Fett though does have 1 extra health. He has, instead of a disrupt, he's got the 2 shield side, which is is no joke. And he's got that power action. So you feel like he's costed 2 points higher than sort of his Covert Missions counterpart, and you have to figure that's because of that power action. I mean, and obviously the health, but that's more so just like creep. You have to give most characters 12 health these days. But like you have to be getting that power action off as many times as you possibly can for that 16 points to be worth it. You have to.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. Well, it's not saying that it's not worth it without the power action, but the power action is what is making you pay the extra 2 points.
Yep.
Because it's a very similar, very similar die sides. Yeah, it will be interesting. I guess you're also paying for the fact that you could pair him with a hero, which the previous one was obviously villain.
Yep.
You could pair him with a Transformations Han Solo, and that's kind of thematic in a weird way, in a fun way. Nice aggro, just shoot lots of guns at your opponent. Yeah, yeah. Going back to the covert missions, Boba Fett, they kind of have a similar thing where you get to roll one of your characters' character dice back into play. With the other one, it was with a bounty, but this one is a power action. So they're kind of thematically somewhat similar. With their card text. This one's it's an interesting one to see how it will get played. Are you veering more to the villain or the hero side with this? Or I mean, I know you said you like Fennec, which will be neutral. But
Yeah,
it's kind of hard, which
I think like for me, I think like I can't, the Disney-ification of Boba Fett. I mean, it's real. Like it has happened. He's
Right.
like he's a hero now. I mean, for better or worse, like he is. I mean, so I just don't think of him as a villain anymore, really. And I don't know, but I guess one of the other things I didn't mention about him and Fennec is they both have power actions and they both have like these after effects. And so to me, sometimes being able to stall in a game is very important.
Mhm.
Like, as Norm would say, it's dirtling can be effective. Like, sort of doing stuff that doesn't progress one way or the other necessarily, but just sort of takes up an action, so that you can put it back in your opponent to see what they're gonna do. It's like they both have a power action. They both have these after effects that are sort of doing stuff, but I guess I like that. I like that dirtily nature of if they're together, it just like gives you more stuff to do to sort of stall if you need to, which is sometimes hard for like a middle deck. Like support decks obviously can do this very well because they have a million things to do.
Right.
But like middle decks sometimes struggle. They're just like activate, resolve, okay, I'm done. It's like it's nice to have something else for both of them to do, which I like if you were to pair them together.
Yeah, this card feels like a fair card, is what I would say.
Yeah.
With this Boba Fett, it's like kitchen table destiny. Like you play a character, one of your favorite characters, you roll your dice out. It's a fair card. Maybe in some of the sets in the last sort of 18 months or so have had things that have maybe some of the cards not unfair, but
Pushed.
things which they're kind of on the edge, and thinking about the pirate shenanigans and all this kind of stuff, and really, this is just a fair. You're rolling your dice, and the power he gets is an extra roll of the dice, which kind of still keeps it random.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair. It feels like a Smash card character. It feels like it was minus the deck building advantages you get with the hero and the villain. Taking the numbers into play on his card and his power action, it feels like a perfect Smash character. You can kind of pair him with any 14 or 16 elite character, and you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a good game. Probably fire loads of weapons with him.
Right.
Get good rolls. It's like a return to kind of old school Destiny, with a mid-priced character in a middle deck, like you said.
I think at 13-15 he's way undercosted, especially for his power action. I think you're right. You're paying the 16 points for the power action. If he was at 17, I don't think he gets played. Even at 16, like to make him to be competitive, you gotta build your deck to power action every turn. Every turn you have to be able to power action to put something out there. And whether you power action early to try to force removal out of your opponent's hand, or you power action after your opponent has claimed, maybe unintentionally because they forgot you had the power action, and you smack him in the face for another 2 to finish the game off. Like, I think it is, if you're not resolving 3 of his dice, or attempting to resolve 3 of his dice every turn, I don't think he gets played that incompetitively. And I think the only way that you really do that is pairing him with, pairing him mono yellow. I think there's lots of options out there for red, lots of cool synergies that you can do with red to keep him alive. But I mean that time that you need that one extra dice roll, and all you're doing is holding a hand, let's say, of red cards or red and gray cards, like it just feels bad at that point.
I mean you could still pair him with like a Commander Pyre and build your deck with mainly yellow cards.
Yeah.
If you want, and just hope to roll out loads of 2s.
I mean, to be fair, if I'm looking to pair him with a villain character, I mean, Red does have some really good weapons and synergies and stuff. You know, we're looking at West Star blasters and things like that that give you those extra pings. But if I'm pairing him with villain, like, and I'm gonna effectively get 3 dice out of him, I think of other characters that are super strong that bring extra dice, and I lean more towards to Pre Vizsla. Yeah, you only run him at single die, but he brings a dark saber with him. So not
Mhm.
only do you get effectively 3 dice out of Boba Fett, but you get 2 additional dice out of Pre Vizsla. I mean, that's 5 dice that you have to deal with round one. And if you're not holding a hand of 5 mitigation, that means you're not advancing your board. So you're probably taking, 6 to the face at least first round.
Mhm.
Um, and then the fact that you just get to play all these amazing villain weapons and hero weapons, like the DL-18, for example, and one of my favorite hero, blasters. The fact that it can be a modifier or it can be modified, like that utility in itself is just remarkable. The dark saber obviously is nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, it's it's 6 sides of a great die.
Mhm.
Vibro sword obviously is a great option. Yeah, I mean, 15, 13 health for Previz and 12 for Boba. That's 25 health that your opponent has to chew through. That
Mhm.
is just, and you're playing with at least 5 die per turn. Like that's just ridiculous.
No, that's good. And you've got your 2 shields on Boba as well, and I think
Mm-hmm.
Vizsla has a
Oh
shield as
yeah,
well. So,
yeah.
you
With
know, you're
Vizsla's power action to remove one of your dice to give this character 1 shield, like you can keep
mhm.
Pre-Vizsla around for a while to keep that dark saber out of your opponent's hand, and
He'll
yeah,
stay around, and I mean, if you look at the Tuscan camp earlier, you start to play some of the yellow cards that are in this set. Then you've got other things you can remove your
yep,
dice and remove your dice with 4 Mandalore, which I said earlier. If you play that, you're rolling in another Boba Fett dice again, and you maybe trying to get four uses of his dice, which all of a sudden those 2 sides begin to add up. You're doing
yeah,
your Blackstall Station stuff with your removing all these kind of things. So, well, there's something there.
yep.
Paulie, you had an interesting interaction discovery with. You want to talk about that with Think on Your Feet?
So
I thought that was really cool.
yeah, so think on your feet. Think on your feet for sure. I mean, there's some other things too that deal with when we talk about resources matter. The fact that we have charm now and adds different types of tokens. Think on your feet says it's basically zero cost removal. Remove 1 resource from a non-plot card to remove a die showing damage. Right. So if you're running Boba Fett and you've got at least 1, if not 2, because you should have 2 on Boba Fett every time if you're going to do his power action. Think on your feet is just becomes zero cost mitigation because you remove the 1 resource from Boba Fett, and then since you played a yellow card, you get to put it right back on Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's super neat.
Like
Super neat.
the stipulation, the reason why I don't think it got played very often was because there wasn't a lot of things that had resources on cards
Yeah,
because you
Think
wanted
on your and it felt bad to remove it from a merchant freighter.
right.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah,
Well, then it
Um,
becomes a one-cost card.
yeah.
You're not
exactly.
getting that resource from Merchant Trader, so
And you could never reload Merchant Freighter. You can reload Boba Fett.
Yeah,
Like,
that just was a really neat, interaction. So,
yeah, there's just little things
we
like
yeah, that's
like I said. I mean, tokens matter. Like the different tokens matter. Who owns those tokens matter. The fact that nobody owns those tokens matter. They're a token on a card. Like there's lots of things that you can do. So it's
yeah.
interesting.
I think on your feet's going to be 2 of with every Boba Fett deck for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
First card you put in, yeah.
For sure.
So yeah, Boba Fett, leader, not a bounty hunter. That
Not a
is
bounty hunter.
very interesting. Very different phase of his life. So, yeah, I'm definitely gonna give him a try. But I did say I mentioned this to you guys earlier. Like I'm really excited in this set to play Blue Hero again. So I think the deck I played most, sort of, in the last meta, was Vader Second Sister, just with a bunch of abilities and cheating them out and turning dice, and that was just, I love that deck. And I will say though, and maybe as we start to close out, we can maybe talk about what card just one, right? What one card we will each miss the most from Spark of Hope?
Well,
I'm just gonna throw it out there. It'll be Neiman Mastery for me,
well,
because that Vader special and the special shenanigans, man.
does open up a lot of design space for future cards now, though, because that was always the number one card you put in your, your form and your 2-cost upgrade. Yeah, I'm going to miss. I won't say Rey or Kylo because there are subsequent versions of those. I'm going to miss Temporary Truce. I really hope somehow that can just be brought back. I love Reylo as a deck idea. I love it as a way to, for someone like me who's not, it goes through large periods where you're not able to play because of other work issues and things. I like to be able to go, well, I can always do Reylo and just look at whatever blue cards are legal and chuck them in a deck, and I know how I'm going to play it without having to know too much about the meta and the combinations. I love Reylo. I would love Temporary Truce. It's my appeal to you directly, Magil Basil. Get Temporary Truce back on the reprint list so we can still have Reylo fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
How about you, Polly?
Well, as I'm browsing through the list one more time, I guess there's two cards. You guys know me. I've never really been fully set on an archetype. I've always been either pew pew go fast, like I'm aggro player, I want to get you off the board as fast as possible, or I'm always trying to win by a different means than just doing damage, right? Or at least doing traditional damage. So I think there's two cards that come to mind that I'm gonna miss. Order 66. I loved playing DJ back in the day with Order 66, and then other blue Dooku decks, Dooku Night Sister, whatever, with Order 66. Controlling your side of the table and having you hit yourself in the face was always my type of gameplay. And then the one card that you guys have seen me try to slide it into every deck, every pew pew go fast I can ever get my hands on, especially in this last meta where shields were such a huge thing, was the DX2 Disruptor Blaster Pistol. The blaster pistol that die, or the die that it modifies, is unblockable blaster damage. It's just out of nowhere. Sometimes it finished games. It was just really good. I'll be honest, it is probably the most removed die in any game that I've ever played. Like, when they see that, that die gets removed. And so those two cards, I think those two cards would be the ones that I'm gonna miss out of Spark of Hope for sure.
Yeah, I know it's Dead or Alive. That's
Dead
number
or
one bounty. Just like boom.
If 86 was here, he would say Dead or Alive, Night Sister Lair probably. Yeah.
Yeah, the bounty hunter stuff for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me also, now we're just listing Spark of Hope cards. I like Han Solo Blaster.
Yeah, Blaster's good.
He's like, they're responsible for some game-winning plays.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, right? Like, we're seeing all these characters that are getting, like our Boba Fett that just got spoiled, that traditionally in the history were bounty hunters. We're rotating out a set of a lot of bounty hunter stuff, and those bounty hunters that are those characters that are coming back in, like Boba Fett, aren't bounty hunters anymore. So like there's this transition almost. So
it's the Disneyfication of Star Wars Destiny.
As Tatooine turns.
Yeah,
it will be interesting though to see how the reprint list evolves over time. What from Spark of Hope maybe gets added, or will the list grow? Right, I think it's been pretty consistent around 100 cards. Maybe it gets bigger. We'll see what happens. So, I just maybe before we close, I wanted to come back to a comment you had earlier, Duncan, around like, for the players who aren't super competitive, who don't play every weekend or every day. Like, it's nice to have those Reylo decks. Or you made a really interesting comment about the new character coming out, Black Cursitan.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, you want to expand on that?
No, well, I mean, it's true. Cards that make, and this is one of the reasons why I really think I'm going to enjoy this set. Cards that have a low barrier of entry to any player, either a lapsed player or a new player or someone that isn't keeping up to date with the meta and therefore knows all the combinations of cards. And I loved it when Raylo's always been one of my go-to decks because you filter all by blue, by look at the sets from whatever is legal onwards and then go downwards, and it just makes it easy to pick your cards and boom, you're straight in there with a deck that can play well. Admiral Akbar was the same. You've got one character you build your deck around, red hero cards, things that will help with your X-Wings, and it just makes deck building easy. That's not a bad thing, There's always going to be the competitive players that are looking for these combinations. But you also want to give players that play, once every few months, they might play a tournament, or they're old Destiny players and they want to come back in, but they don't know any of these complicated card combinations that everyone's playing, and it's really intimidating to come in and play. If you've got, a card like Black Chrysanthemum, you can just pick your Black Chrysanthemum, filter. What is he? I imagine he's obviously he's
29 elite.
He's
29 elite. Yeah.
19 health. Yeah, he's a beast.
He's a villain.
So he's all your deck building right there. You're not looking at combinations, or all this kind of stuff. You're let me just scroll up and find them. Yeah, so yellow villain. So you're just filtering yellow villain, or you're getting your folder out and you're just looking at the yellow villain cards, and you pick 30 cards that you like, and you play a deck, and he's got no blank sides, and he's got good die sides there.
He's got great die sides.
Power action, and I mean everything's just great. So it just makes it really easy to play. There'll be people that will play Black Chrysanthemum on the release event on the 7th of May that might not have played Destiny competitively for a long time, and they're going to do well, and they're going to have a really good time because they've made it really easy to make a deck. It's like the original Palpatine. It was easy to make a deck with him and have fun and be competitive. Not feel like you're stuck with a sort of out of the box deck. So that's what I really like about Echo 3's design philosophy. It seems Chrysanthemum especially, or even Mandalorian. Pick the best player, the best character in the in the Destiny, in the Star Wars world at that time. Build a deck around him, and it's good. It's a good deck, and it's so important, to get people back into the game and everything. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well said. I wanted to make sure we captured that because that was a really great point. I think as we see in-person play like picking up, which is amazing, right? We've had some events here in the U.S. We've had some stuff happening in the U.K., some stuff in Brazil. Like stuff's happening. It's just awesome. Yeah, and you need that. So
anything that can bring players back into the game or attract new players, or give to your friend and say, "Hey, I've got a Black Chrysanthemum deck. You're going to have a good time with it. Just keep them alive as long as you can. Do as much damage. It's just great.
Yep.
Great.
For sure.
I wanted to say before we go, thank you, I guess, to ARH for giving us the Boba Fett spoiler. That's really great. This is the Book of Boba Fett set, and it feels like a real, honor and a privilege to be able to spoil Boba Fett with people. It's a big card. Everyone knew it was coming, and it's really good to be able to share that with people. So, yeah, thanks, guys.
Absolutely, yeah. Echo 3, thanks for having our back, man. Always hooking us up. Paula, any final comments, man?
Yeah, I'm kind of right along with Duncan. Like, I'm excited about deck building again. Even trying to maybe not do things quite as simple as just pick up Black Chrysanthemum and build something, but try to break him a little bit. I don't know, charm his own dice so I can roll him out 4 or 5 times. It's I'm looking forward to playing Destiny again. We were in St. Louis in January for the regional, doing some stuff, and then I had to move, so I've been out of the game for a little bit. But it's always good to see that it's still building, it's still thriving, or adding new mechanics. New mechanics are always fun. It makes things seem new again. Not just how can I do as much damage as quickly as possible, but that chess game. I like the alternate way to win games and play games, and I think this set, I think they've done a great job so far with what we've seen. Adding just enough new to make it super exciting. So, and not like too much to handle. Like I think that's the other half side of it. You add too much, and then people are like, oh my god, there's too much to really think about. So I think they've done a great job. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to sitting here when I'm supposed to be working and actually building decks instead.
Right. That's for sure, man. Yeah, we'll have to check and see the database activity is just gonna spike in the coming weeks, right? As people are like, scrambling to make decks, and so yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Well, they've set the database up. You can see seeking answers in the cards drop down list, but nothing is loaded yet. So
Yep.
they're getting ready.
Coming soon. All right, guys. Well, this has been awesome. So hopefully you're still with us. Hopefully people are still watching. All right, gents. Well, appreciate everyone tuning in. Duncan, thank you so much. Paulie, thank you, sir. I've been Majo. This is us at On the Sensors, Seeking Answers. It's coming out May the 4th, and the release party will be May the 7th. So we'll throw the flyer up as well. That's it, gents. I think we'll close it out. Adios. Thanks everyone for watching, and take care. See you next time.
Later.